I would like to welcome you to the Southampton Public Lecture Series. This is one of a monthly series. We have 3 more left this fall. I have an announcement to make first before we begin. I am Brad Peterson, Dr. Brad Peterson. I'm one of the faculty members here at Southampton College. Make note here, Stony Brook University, thank you very much. I'd like to make an announcement here for the upcoming lecture, which will be on Wednesday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. And our speaker that night will be Joyce Novak from the Peconic Estuary Partnership. I hope that you will also join us then. Tonight, it's my great privilege and pleasure to introduce our speaker. Before I do that, though, I would like to just give some housekeeping for you people that are not present with us physically here on campus. So during the lecture tonight, you may have a question that you'd like to bring up. Please type your question into the chat. And at the end of the lecture, I'll come up and read your questions to Greg to get his perspective and take on that. So just feel free to type your questions into the chat as we go along. With that said, I have a tremendous amount of joy in introducing our speaker tonight, Greg Metzger, who has taught some of our classes out here at Southampton. He is also the Chief Field Coordinator for the SOFO Shark Research and Education Program, and I am looking very forward to his presentation tonight. Please welcome Greg Metzger.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. I appreciate the welcome. So my lecture tonight is actually going to start in 2018 and come to bring it to current field season that we just finished. But I will give a little bit of background history since some of you might be new to our program and who we are. All right, so I'm going to take us back briefly to 2015. 2015 is when our sort of 4 founding fathers, as we call ourselves, decided to stop talking about doing research with sharks on Long Island and actually started doing it. So our 4 sort of college buddies, we started out all here on campus. It was not Stony Brook at the time, though, it was Long Island University. We all sort of graduated on or around the same time together, and each of us went off to different aspects of marine science. Our lead scientist, Dr. Toby Curtis, is a NOAA fisheries biologist up in Massachusetts. He actually has his PhD in shark work, has his master's in shark work. And so he's the one that makes sure that our scientific questions and our methodology and stuff like that is sound. We have Chris Paparo, who's a very famous name around these parts. He's Fish Guy Photos. He's also the manager here at the Stony Brook Southampton Marine Station. He's our professional writer, photographer, sort of our PR person. We have Frank Quivetto, who's the director of the South Fork Natural History Museum. And so the museum is sort of the hub, is the organization that we do our shark work out of. And then myself, the job that pays the bills is I teach marine science and aquaculture at Southampton High School. So having summers off and having an interest in fishing and having the boat and the gear. And I'd like to think I know a little bit about catching sharks these days. Was able to go out and actually conduct the field work. So those are the 4 sort of college buddies that kept in touch and were able to come together. And Toby was the one that really said that, there's a lot of sharky stuff here on Long Island. And there weren't a whole lot of organizations that were doing a lot of work, and there was a lot of work to be done. And he really whet my appetite by throwing out there that historically, there was sort of evidence that the New York bite could be a nursery for white sharks. And so I was like, that's ridiculous. What are you talking about? I could go out here and catch baby white sharks. And he says, yeah, they are caught. And he said, if you could catch them with consistency, we could really be on a really great run. And so in 2015, that's when we sort of got our permits in order, because white sharks are a prohibited species. And so to be able to do some of the work that we were hoping to do with them, we needed to have permits to do that. So our actual work, sort of research, started in 2015. But we were just nothing. We didn't even have a business card. I think we might have had one social media handle. We called ourselves the Long Island Shark Collaboration. It was literally nothing. It was 4 guys. But we were able to go out and we caught and tagged the first ever Young of the Year white shark in the Atlantic Ocean with a satellite tag. That attracted some attention. OSearch came in 2016 and 2017. We caught a bunch more baby white sharks. And so that really jump-started our research. And so 2018 is when it really sort of solidified and came together. So that's a very brief sort of getting from the very, very beginning to 2018. So with that, we do the two sharks that we primarily focus on and have focused on were the common thresher shark and the baby white sharks that are here. So like I said, in 2015, we were able to catch and tag the first one. We have over 30 that have been tagged so far since that first one in 2015. And thresher sharks are also a shark of interest. They're one that is commercially viable. So they're one that's caught a lot here by fishermen on Long Island. They are not a prohibited species. They're excellent to eat. They're great game fish. And as with most sharks, very little is known about them, known about their life history, certainly what they're doing here on Long Island. And there were no other organizations that were really studying thresher sharks here on Long Island. So as you know and can appreciate here at a university that relies heavily on grant money and support, there's not a whole lot of it going around. And so it's completely counterproductive to duplicate work that somebody else is doing. So there was no reason for us to really get into sand tiger work or blue sharks, because there were other organizations that were doing them. So these baby white sharks and thresher sharks were one that were of interest, and you know, there was a lot of work that needed to be done with them. So that's why we chose those 2 species. Because of the sharks that we caught in 2015, 16, and 17, we had the evidence that we needed to confirm that actually, yes, the New York bite is indeed a nursery for white sharks. And so we published that work in 2018. This was the first paper that we published with the data that we were able to collect. So congratulations, you have the first basically known nursery for white sharks in the Atlantic Ocean. And so this was certainly, you know, I get asked a lot, well, what's the greatest thing you learned? What's the greatest thing you've done so far? And I would say that, you know, confirming that we have indeed a nursery here on Long Island for white sharks is pretty sweet. So this is so there's like 3 parameters that are sort of required to deem an area nursery, and so this shows one of those, which is residence. So each one of these colors is a different shark that was caught. I think there were, what did we use here? 8 white sharks, 8 babies that were young of the year that were caught and tagged. And so you can see that they spent that whole summer basically swimming along back and forth along the South Shore of Long Island. So one of the requirements for nurseries that they're resident, they're there, they spend a period of time there. It's not just a hit and run type thing. In 2018, the South Fork Natural History Museum officially sort of took us, the 4 guys and a dream, under their umbrella. So we officially became the South Fork Natural History Museum's Shark Research and Education Program. The museum at the time, I think, was celebrating their just about 30 years of existence on the East End. It's a small non-for-profit museum, a natural history museum. They, you know, Frank being a friend of ours, you know, when we started back in 2015, he says, you know, I want the museum to be an active member. I don't want us to just be a member on paper. So what can we do? I says, well, I need crew. It's me, you know. I had the summers off, all my other friends and stuff worked, they could work here and there. I says, you know, I need somebody that's consistently out on the boat. And so the museum dug into their pockets, and they actually funded, for those first few years, a paid intern. And so they became my first mate. So, you know, it was a natural progression that this fit. You know, this is a really, really great local East End sort of project, and it fit perfect with the missions of the museum. And for us, it was great because we had the power of a known entity. It was a nonprofit organization. They had staff, so I could make business cards, like the simplest things that we just didn't have time to do. And so now that we had sort of the power of the museum, it really brought on sort of that piece that we were missing, because all of us are volunteers. None of us are getting paid to do any of the shark work. And so we do this all in our spare time. So even something as simple as getting business cards to take the hour to sit and figure out how to do it and get it printed, it was nice to have the museum take care of that business. Plus, we now had an organization that was legitimate in terms of funding, when those opportunities presented themselves. So this was a tremendous additional advancement to our work to have the museum take us in. We have two tags that are the primary workhorses for the data that we collect. Our primary question initially was just habitat usage. And that still is our primary question, is how are these animals utilizing Long Island waters when they're here? And so luckily, technology and these tag manufacturers produce all different types of tags to allow scientists to get the data to answer their questions. So this is the company's low tech. This tag's a satellite pop-off tag. So it gets affixed at the base of the dorsal fin. And these are programmed to release after 28 days. So these stay on the shark for 28 days. While they're underwater, the tag is recording the water temperature and depth every 10 seconds for those 28 days. After 28 days, the tag releases, and we log into the Argos satellite system, and we start checking. These things are pretty good. We have really good luck with the low tech tags. So on or around day 28 post release, we'll start checking the site, and then we'll start to get pings. So each one of these dots is a transmission from the tag to the satellite. So once the tag releases from the shark and starts floating at the surface, it not only relays the GPS location, it also relays the data that's been collected. So we don't have to collect these tags back to get data, but we don't get the 10-second resolution. If it's just transmitted to the satellites, we get 5-minute resolution. So not bad. Every 5 minutes for 28 days is still a boatload of data. But fortunately that, the sharks that we're tagging pretty much stay coastal. And by the time when we tag them, they're still here. They haven't started their migration after those 28 days. So we have a really, really good recovery rate. So it's really nice to see this sort of signature, because we've identified that when we see this, that tag's on the beach. And so we can go and we've had a really, really good success rate, or we can put the APB out, because most of the tags that we've deployed that have washed up along the South Shore of Long Island somewhere. But like last year, we saw a tag popped off Jersey, and we watched it floating around, and we usually get about 7 to 8 days of pings before the battery dies. And so we're watching this thing float around in the ocean, and then zoop, Mother Nature washed it up onto the beach. So I see that signature on the beach. I was like, all right, this is great. We're going to get the tag back. We looked it up on the computer. It was a super populated area. So we're like, sweet, we're going to get this baby back. So I'm checking like every, couple hours, I'm logging on to see where it is. Well, it was on the beach. All of a sudden I see it like inland, and then I see it over the bridge, and then I see it like farther inland. And now it's just sitting there at this house somewhere in Jersey. So I'm like, all right, great. This thing was definitely picked up. Why aren't they calling me? My cell phone's on the tag. So the whole day goes by. So I'm calling Toby. I was like, hey man, somebody's got our tag. I see. He's like, yeah, I'm looking at it myself. So what's going on? You haven't gotten a call yet? No. So we call down to the news crew down in Jersey in the area and say, hey, we've got a tag. It's been, as far as we know, it's on the beach. It appears as though the signature, it's been picked up. So they run with it. They love this. Like this shark that was caught on Long Island, the tag's on their beach. Like, so it's like going viral and all the news on the radio, like all kinds of crazy stuff. Second day goes by, still no call. Third day. So I'm like, well, I gotta go down and get this thing because the freaking battery's gonna die. And I'm not gonna, that's gonna be lost. I'm like, maybe the guy or the gal, whoever picked it up, is keeping it as a souvenir. Well, I'm not giving them a $2,000 souvenir. I need that thing back. So I throw my wife and kid in the car. We start driving down. It's like a torrential downpour. There's like crazy, like skidding off the road. My wife's like, what are you're not turn this car around, we're going back. You're crazy. We're not risking our lives to get this stupid tag. Okay, great. So next day, the rain stops. And I was like, I'm going to get that tag. She's like, yeah, I figured you would. So as I'm backing up to go, ring, the phone rings. Hi, this is, Jimmy. I forget what his name was. He says, I think I have something of yours. All right, great. So I go down there to give him his reward because we offer a reward. And I was like, dude, what's up? Why did it take you like 3 days to give us the tag back? He says, yeah, I got busy at this and that. And he says, you know why? He says, it would have probably been a little longer, but he says, all my buddies were like, calling me. They're like, hey man, didn't you pick something up on the beach? And he's like, yeah, why? He's like, well, haven't you watched the news or turned on the radio? He says, everybody's looking for this thing. He says, why didn't you? He's like, all right, I'll call the guy. So pretty funny story. We got the tag back. He was super happy, but and then this year we actually had, we tagged a dusky on the outside of the Great South Bay, and a fisherman found it on the inside of the Great South Bay. And then we tagged a thresher shark that you'll see this year off Southampton, and the tag washed up and was sent back to us up in Rhode Island. So we're pretty sure we had a tag consumed. So we got that tag back. The shark, it popped early. There was like scratches all over the tag. So note to self, if you come back as a small dusky shark, don't swim to Massachusetts in the summertime. It may not work out for you. But we'll just leave it at that. So pretty cool stuff from the tag. So what does the data look like? Basically, it's temperature and depth. So Toby makes these really nice color-coded graphs to represent the temperature, and then obviously the depths that are there. So those are the pop-off satellite tags. The second tag that we use is a much more sophisticated tag. This is a CATS cam. CATS stands for Customized Animal Tracking Solutions. That's the manufacturer of the tag. This is a super high-end accelerometer. So this has several different sensors in it that takes that records the acceleration in X, Y, and Z of the shark, as well as the angle in X, Y, and Z that the shark is moving, as well as the temperature and depth. And it also has a high definition camera. So you're literally riding the back of the shark, seeing a shark's eye view, as well as we have the tag program to record all of it. It has a magnometer in it, so we know direction, that the dead reckoning, that the and compass it does so many things. I'm not even like 100% sure on everything that it does, but basically if the shark blinks, we've got the data on what that looks like in terms of it moving. And we have it set to record this at I think some of them were 50 times a second, and then we turned it down to 20 times a second. We're playing now because we've had the success in terms of deploying them a few more times. We're starting to play with some of the settings to see if there's like a sweet spot for the amount of data we get versus hard drive space and that sort of stuff. So the problem with this tag is we have to get it back in order to get the information. So this is what it looks like. This is a 3-minute sort of snapshot of catching and tagging a thresher shark with a CAT cam. I hope the volume's off on this because I don't know that there might be some colorful language in this video. I will let it rip. Welcome to field season.
Dub it in.
So yeah, so this is a common thresher shark. They are very, very powerful animals. And then certainly that tail is, they utilize that tail to stun prey. So they typically will feed on schooling animals, squid, small fish, all the bunker that are here, certainly bringing them in. And so they'll use that tail to thrash or whip through the schools to stun the schools of individuals, whatever it is that they're feeding on. But they definitely know how to use that tail, and you'll see them try to give me a little whack a couple of times. So we do not remove the animals from the water. We secure them. So what I'm trying to do is get a tail rope around it. So the head is secured. Well, we keep the hook in its mouth, so the head's sort of secure with the hook and line. And then what we'll do is we'll get, I think I finally get it here. So we put a rope around it, and then we cinch it up right at the caudal peduncle, so that the very narrowest part right before the tail. Yeah, so you could see them. Those are not coincidental near hits. So this tail rope system, I actually sort of kind of developed specifically to deal with thresher sharks, because how are you supposed to get the tail rope around as it's flipping and flopping like that and not get killed? So this rope works really, really well. Everybody, you can see Walt has been working with me for years, so he's completely as far away as he possibly can go. If we did have any other individuals on board, I'd have them in the pilot house. So my boat has a protective, basically like a car, so they're inside so that they don't have to worry about it. So this one actually got double tagged, so you could see the pop-off satellite tags getting ready to go on there. So it just pushes in, and there's an anchor that secures it. And then the CAT scan gets affixed to the dorsal fin on the opposite side. This is a male. You can tell male from females, especially thresher sharks. They have very long claspers, so those two finger-like projections back there. If they have that, that's a male. If they don't, that's a female. And so the tags are on, and then you can see the animal sort of flips over, and unless it absolutely takes off when we're getting done, we usually walk them, what we call walking them. So it's just kicking the boat in and out of gear just to help revive them. You could see that it was starting to kick. This was as we let it go, it slowly sank down, and you could see it roll over, and then would appear to take off. Now you'll see the look of astonishment on my face, because as far as we know, that's the first ever thresher shark tagged with a CAT scan as well. So that was, we've had the great fortune of having some really amazing sort of scientific firsts as far as we know. So that's why I was like, it's been many years that we had this tag, and their stars need to align. You need good weather, both the day that you're going to put the tag out, as well as the next day to go get the tag. And so, it finally, and you have to catch the animal. So it all finally worked out in our favor. So, okay, so here's a little bit of, so all the sensors, these are, as far as like all the sensors and stuff are inside. It doesn't really look like a big fancy piece of equipment, but there's a lot going on inside. And in order to get it back, we utilize these two tags. So this one here in the front is a spot tag. So that talks to the satellite, just like the PSAT. So when the tag releases from the shark and floats to the surface, this tag turns on and starts relaying its GPS location. The problem is this relies on the Argos satellite system, which has a lot less satellites in it than your GPS on your car. So your GPS in your car will be off an inch or two. This thing might be off 3 miles. So I'm not going to find this tag if I'm 3 miles away from it. So how do I actually get to it? And that's where the second tag comes in. This is emits a radio frequency. So what we do is we log on to the computer, and just like it's the same system. So all of a sudden, bing, we get this is the tag number for the satellite tag. So like, yippee, it's up, it worked. At least we know it's out there. So I'll put this GPS location into the boat, and zingo, we drive out to that spot. Chances of finding it are at that spot is like 0. I haven't had that happen yet. But what we do have is then we have headset and a radio antenna. And so then what we start doing is we turn that on, and as long as we start to hear the beep, so it beeps like every second, beep, 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 and this is directional. So what that means is as you're pointing at the tag, it gets louder, and then as you sweep away, it gets quieter. So you sort of can triangulate by sweeping back and forth, and then you can tell, okay, it's in this direction. And then as you move in that direction, you can turn down the gain as you get closer and closer to the tag. And we haven't lost one yet. So it's very nerve wracking, but we've done it now enough that it's not this intimidating, oh my God, am I going to be able to get this tag back anymore? So that brings my stress level down quite a bit, because the package price for one of those CAT scans is like 12 grand. So if we double tagged like that Thresher, it just swam away with about $15,000 worth of bling. So it's good to be able to get these things back. So this is just indicating how difficult it is. So you see that bright yellow end, to that CAT scan. You're like, be able to see a thing a mile away. Well, it's about 400 yards away in this picture. Actually, it shows up pretty good on the screen. So right there. Any kind of little chop, like forget about it. It's very, very difficult to find. But like I said, we've got them back. That's what it looks like floating. And so data. The data that you can collect off this thing is completely ridiculous, but just to show you a little bit. So this was the shark that we actually that you just saw. This is it. So we released it here at the surface, and what did it do? Bang, floated to the bottom and hung out there for a second or two, and then was like, whoop, up into the water column and back down, and up in the water column, and then you could see. So this is the first 20 minutes of data after it released. So you can see it slowly starting to recover. This is just the speed in the forward direction. And then if we advance this to the last 20 minutes of data, you could see that it's doing these really nice cyclical up and down. It's up off the water, and the acceleration. So the other thing is, it was 20 miles away. So on average, no matter what species of shark we put these CAT scans on, they average about a mile an hour. So that's another reason why we don't want to put these on for multiple days, because it could literally be 50, 60 miles away, and my vessel is not capable of going there. Plus you have the unknown weather window, that sort of thing. So in that regard, I will accept the offer that we need a bigger boat, but I don't have the wherewithal to spend $500,000 on a boat that allows us to go get these things no matter where they are. So we are restricted in some respects, but also very fortunate to have these. So we actually have two. One of them has the camera and accelerometers on it. The other just has the accelerometers. And so the one with just the accelerometers was purchased through the help of Jeff Neubauer from Bridgehampton Schools through private donations. And the other one that had the full package with the camera was purchased from the Southampton Education Foundation. So we appreciate both of their supports. The museum not only took us in, but they remodeled part of one whole wall of the museum to put in an interactive exhibit to showcase all of our shark work. So these are touchscreen TVs. This one's actually portable. My wife and Dr. Curtis spent tremendous amounts of time working with professional makers to give a virtual experience. So you literally can go and click and learn about the various sharks that we interact with, but also there's a virtual tagging experience. So you literally can get on the boat, you go out, you pick your hooks, you put your gear, you pick your bait. They catch the shark, you have to reel it in, you got to tail rope it and take blood. And it's literally everything that we do, interactive touchscreen, type thing. So it's a really pretty amazing platform. We can update it with our maps and stuff like that. We actually have an intern from Stony Brook this year that's specifically charged with Hey, congratulations. Shout out. Thank you so much. So she's actually charged with updating and redoing and incorporating all of the new stuff that we've been able to do and obtain for since basically 2018 when it went in. So thank you. So as I don't know if it was during or after, I was saying that, the name Chief Field Coordinator was sort of a tongue in cheek because I had nobody but myself to coordinate. And fortunately, I've had some really, really great friends that have stepped up to the plate. And one of which is Matt Burkout, who's here in this picture. This one I actually will. Uh-oh, where's our, oh no, where'd it go? Video. Darn it, it's back. All right, this was, shucks.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is. All right. Great. So where's the volume here? Well, it doesn't seem like we're going to hear it here, but basically what he's saying is this, Matt was sort of a captain in training. And so what he was saying is this was a new intern that was out with us through Oceans Wide, which I'll speak about in a minute. Matt spent years out with me learning how to catch and tag and do what we do. And so he was explaining, so I was sort of standing back, letting Matt train. Because we bring a lot of people out with us and most of them have no idea what they're doing. And I think that that's one of the benefits of our program is that we are able to bring people out that typically wouldn't have experience or might be shunned by other organizations. We actually encourage that. And so Matt was just explaining how to tell the sex of this shark. And so the intern said it was a female. And Matt said, I actually just learned this yesterday from me, that when they're really little sharks like this, you really have to look between those pelvic fins to see and if the claspers are there. And so that was a cool little video clip that just shows, you know, and he's gone on to get his own vessel and get his own gear, and he actually gets out there and catches and tags sharks for us as well. And so this has been tremendous for me personally because I don't have to, all of the heavy lifting of tagging and doesn't fall on me. I can be on vacation with my new daughter, and these guys can be out there still catching and tagging and doing the work. And so you know, chief field coordinator, but I'm also a captain as well. And so captain rivalry is something that is a real thing. If you have any experience with, you know, competitiveness in fishing, it's very real. And so Matt actually outfished me last year. He caught more white sharks than I did last year. So my captain's pride was, of course, beat up and bruised, but sort of my grandpappy sort of fatherly pride was overwhelming that, you know, he started out where he did and is now out doing it himself. So, and to piggyback on that, I have another friend of mine who actually I think I've been friends with longer, Walter Zublionis. So he's the guy here in the blue, and also has spent tremendous amounts of time out with me learning and doing things, and now has his own vessel and gear, and is clearly able to catch and tag sharks as well. So we've expanded from my single vessel to now 3 very capable, very confident vessels to get out there and do what we do. And when it comes to fishing, it's time on the water, so hooks in the water. So I'm excited to see, and it's already paid off, that we've been able to expand our fleet here. We are lucky enough to have attracted the attention of some really, really great organizations outside of both Stony Brook here and the South Fork Natural History Museum. We've worked with Oceans Wide, and they provide a 1-week opportunity for students and teachers. I've had adults, I've had kids go through Oceans Wide. So space is very limited on our boats. And so this sort of locks in an opportunity for kids or teachers or adults or whoever wants to come out with us. You know, there's a relatively small fee, and it gets you out there, gets you a spot on the boat every day for 7 days. So it's Sunday to Saturday, and it's not a canned experience. You know, I don't have sharks in a cage out there where, you know, I can go out and guarantee you catch them if the weather's bad. Welcome to field season. So it's a real experience, but tremendously valuable. It's not a spectator sport. Obviously, I'm not going to ask them to do anything that they're not comfortable doing, but the expectation is that they, by the end of the week, would have done everything that we do, with the exception of fixing a CAT scan. I just don't trust that they're able to do that. But everything else, they're touching, they're fin clipping, they're recording, they're the PSATs, you know, all that sort of stuff. So that's also a very incredible opportunity that Oceans Wide, you know, provides, and certainly the funding that comes in from that is really good as well. We started to add baited remote underwater video. You know, just because we didn't catch a shark doesn't mean there weren't any there. And how are we supposed to know if we don't film it? And so this has been really tremendously valuable to our research, because we're trying to eliminate water. We don't want to fish in water where there aren't sharks. So what is the water that you have sharks? And so, like I said, just because you don't catch a fish which happened on this day, we knew that we were in the right area because we saw that nice thresher buzzing us on the underwater camera. So we've had high school interns. You were talking about the thin print, you know, so not that we're at that level, but, you know, there's a lot of data that can be collected about, you know, the nursery areas and the different shark species based on, you know, how long it takes things to show up, sort of residency time. But, you know, for us, me specifically, you know, were we in the right spot at this day? And if we see, you know, if we catch them, obviously, yes, but even if we don't catch them, if we can see them on the camera, that tells us that we were still in the right spot. Another thing I think I'm really pretty, well, I'm proud of everything, but this is another really big thing that I'm happy came together. There was no shark response team. The sharks wash up dead, you know, all the time. And basically they would get captured and buried as quickly as possible. People would cut the teeth out, do whatever they do with them. And this is really valuable information, just like, you know, a whale washes up, a turtle washes up. You know, they have the, you know, the Atlantic Marine Conservation Society, they've got it locked down. They've got people know, call them. If you know, they've done great marketing. They've been doing it a long time and they really get a lot of animals and valuable information. Why did this animal die? What's going on? And we had none of that for sharks. And so I and the New York Aquarium, the Department of Environmental Conservation, Atlantic Marine Conservation Society, because they would get all the calls. People would find a shark and they call them. Well, we don't care. What do we care? You know, the East End towns, the police facilities. So over the last few years, we've really made a conscious effort to try and create like a shark response team so that if a call comes in or somebody gets a shark, one of us gets called and then we all get called. And so that's worked out really well. We've been able to collect and get lots of valuable information from sharks that normally would have just been buried in the beach. So this is a very small pup. So, you know, we've been able to get them small, medium, large. We've got them by the truckload. We even got them by the garage load. So it's really been a valuable experience. And a lot of these animals, you know, every shark that's dead on the beach, it's fisherman's fault. Oh, it's fisherman's fault. Oh, it's the fisherman's fault. And what we actually found through the veterinary pathology work is this thresher shark died from meningitis. This was no way, shape, or form a fisheries interaction death. And so you know, and it just goes to show that unless you collect these things and you start looking at them and you start trying to figure out, well, what really did kill them? A lot of dogfish, the same veterinary pathologist found that it wasn't fisheries related, that they were finding multiple dogfish dead a day for several weeks. It was, you know, these things get parasites, they get diseases and, you know, that sort of thing. So it's not always the fisherman's fault. So I'm really excited about that. So if any of you guys find a shark on the beach, give us a call. My contact information will be up here. And so, you know, we have gotten lots of attention, both locally and sort of around the, you know, certainly across the country. We've been interviewed by very much all the news outlets, CBS, NBC, Good Morning America. We've been lots of local newspapers and radio shows and that sort of thing. So it's always flattering when we get a call. Hey, you know, we're NBC. We saw your work. We'd love to send a crew out with you to film and tell your story. It's like, wow, it's super flattering that, you know, they just call you up and, you know, based on the work that you've been doing, get recognized for it. So, and it's great, you know, it's an opportunity for us to give good, positive messaging, not only about our organization, but about sharks in general. You know, we're fighting Discovery Shark Week, you know, it hits hundreds of millions of people a year, you know, to try to undo that, you know, unfortunate bad rap that they've given sharks. If you spent any time in the water, you know that balloons are a tremendous pollutant out there. And it got to the point where I like needed to do something. I felt like I needed to do something. So last year we held our first balloon tournament. And there was a hurricane, so a date needed to get moved. And anytime you move a date on anything, disaster. So we had a couple of people participated. One person won, so which was great. And so they came out, and we looked to change it and sort of open it up a little bit more. And so we had a lot better turnout this year for the shark tournament. I think we removed total almost 1,300 balloons from the environment. Both there was land, sea, and air. You know, we didn't really care where you got the balloons from, so it worked out really well. And we made a couple of bucks, and we took about 1,300 balloons out of the environment. So this is something that we will definitely continue moving forward. We've supported lots of research students. So sort of the highest level that our work has supported was Rachel Shaw. She earned her master's degree studying the three-dimensional habitat movements of some of those first, I think the first 9 or 10 white sharks. So those first nine, I think it was, white sharks that were tagged, they had multiple tags on them. So they had fin-mounted spot tags so that we could get their horizontal movement. Those are the ones that OSEARCH uses that you get the pings from. But we also had the PSATs on them so we could get the depth. And so what she was able to do is analyze that three-dimensional movement. And this is sort of a novel way to analyze shark data, which is pretty neat. Usually it's only linear. And this was able to actually do three-dimensional, and so her work was published. And so this is the three-dimensional movement that she was able to, these maps that she was able to create. So you have both the horizontal movement, okay, but also in relationship to the bottom and their dives and stuff like that. So really a pretty novel and super valuable to see how these young of the year are utilizing Long Island waters. That movement also allowed us to find where the babies like to overwinter. And so they overwinter in the Carolinas. And Toby got a call from Rebecca James, who was a Hollings Fellowship winner, and so she's like, hi, I have money, would love to work with you. And he says, we got all this overwintering data. So so Rebecca sort of dove in heavy to the summer area, which is here on Long Island, but we had all this wintering data that nobody had a chance to look at. And so Rebecca, that was her thesis, undergraduate honors thesis work through the Hollings fellowship to look at and so stay tuned. We should be finding out any day now whether that paper has been published. So it's been submitted and the revisions and stuff have been made. So hopefully that'll be published soon, and you can find out what they were doing in the wintertime down in the Carolinas. We have partnered with, this was pretty awesome. We just, we're in partnership with the University of Delaware through Dr. Aaron Carlisle. He has written and won a grant to basically put a tag that they're developing. It's basically a CTD. So conductivity, temperature, and depth tag on various sharks, and letting the sharks sort of swim through the water column and collect that salinity, temperature, and depth. And then when they hit the surface, it relays that data that then goes to this repository for climate change, for anybody that wants to look at ocean. So it's using the shark to survey the current temperatures and depths and salinities and stuff like that. And so they've sort of contracted us to put the tags out for them. So really awesome experience and opportunity to work with Aaron and his team and to help. So it's not really fisheries. It's not a fisheries grant. It's an oceanographic grant, but we get to sort of utilize and tag on to the fisheries data that we get from it. The movement data. We also won 2 remote operated vehicles from the New York Aquarium. They put out a request for proposal, and so we submitted a grant to get one. And they said, we were really stingy with ones that we gave out, and we have a couple extra. Would your program benefit from 2? We're like, 2? Like 2? Yeah, 2. So we're like, yeah, that would be amazing. So so we were able to, so the museum has one, and they've been doing a lot of programs just teaching about ROVs. I think they got a big pool that they set up, and I've used the other one. We've flown it around some of the fish tanks at school. We have white-spotted bamboo sharks that like to lay eggs in an area where we can't see them. So the kids fly the ROV up underneath there to survey the eggs. And we zipped it around out in some of the freshwater ponds and stuff like that. We were very busy this season out in the ocean. So the game plan was, all right, today we're going to fly the ROV. And before we knew it, boom, day was going like crap. We never got the ROV out. So we didn't have a chance to fly it on in the ocean as much as we wanted to, but there's always next year. Tree hit the main research vessel, so that was a little bump in the road, but luckily the boat handled it well, and with a little fiberglass and spit and glue, we were able to get it back functional for to finish the field season. And so because we've had the success we've had so far in focusing on the threshers and white sharks, we've been able to recover a lot of the tags. We've been able to sort of expand the species a little bit. And so we have a handful of dusky sharks, just one blue shark, and a handful of sandbar sharks that we've actually been able to get pop-off satellite tags on, because we're looking to really start to expand and look at not just the thresher sharks and the white sharks, but all of these different species. There's like 5 or 6 different species of sharks that are all in the exact same place, pretty much at the exact same time, feeding on these bunker and doing what they're doing. So, you know, we're positioning ourselves to start collecting that data so that we can look at multiple species at the same time in the same area, and which is also a pretty novel opportunity that we have here. So, so we're pretty excited about that. Having the autonomy that the museum gives us allows us to really adapt to changing environmental conditions. So like I said, we started out with threshers and whites, but these dang stupid cow-nose rays show up, right? And so they're all the craze and they're eating everything and they're causing problems, and they sank my boat. You know, they're like, there's all these, you know, they showed up, and every problem that's happening with the bay is now the ray's fault. And so being that the museum, you know, they just want us, they're just happy to have us out doing stuff. And, you know, Stony Brook was able to secure some partnerships and get some tags, and they, you know, I'm always down for a wild and crazy adventure. And so we spent some time this summer working with Dr. Peterson's group to try and figure out a way to catch and then ultimately be able to tag some cow-nose rays. Stay tuned. I think we missed the window of opportunity, although we did get out there. We made some tweaks and changes, but so as long as the you know, rays come back next year, I think we'll be really positioned to get on them again. This year, so we're current. This is starting this year. It was pretty ridiculous. You could see that I'm kissing this baby as we're getting ready to put it on our first thresher shark for this year, hoping to get it back. And Mike here, he was our first mate, very excited because we did get the tag back. And so I talked about that high definition camera view. So this is the nose, this white spot here. This is the nose of the thresher shark. They didn't really like to, so that sort of quick acceleration is about the most exciting thing in the 7 hours that we got of video from its back. But, you know, like you're riding the back of a thresher shark. That is like so cool. So we're pretty pumped up. Obviously we were hoping to see feeding behaviors and jumping and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I doubt that you're going to see that sort of thing, you know, 18 hours post-release. And so what we've been finding is the video, we get about 7 hours of video. So I don't know if it's a different battery or what the scoop is or how we have it jacked up to get like the highest resolution on stuff in case we do get something cool. You know, we've got nice. So we're starting to play with that. But, you know, it's going to be interesting to see like the acceleration data and the swimming stuff that's associated with these thresher sharks. The other thing that, so we added another thresher sharks cats deployment, and then the bunker showed up, and they showed up really close to the beach, and then the sharks showed up, right? And it was all the crazes here. Black tips are taking over. Stay out of the water. Stay tuned. Black tip, black tip, black tip. Everything was black tip. And so Toby, you know, was like, hey man, he says, it's really, really hard to tell the difference between a black tip shark and a spinner shark. He said, it'd be a little weird if there were that many black tips. He says, if there's any way you could get on them, you know, and try to catch one, we could see whether it's a black tip or a spinner shark. I says, all right. So how am I going to know? I never caught any of these things. I had never heard anything. So he said, well, you know, there's this very fine, basically you got to have them in hand and look at one of their fins. He said, you know, both of them jump and both of them spin. They both have all black tips. Both of them are close to shore eating schooling fish. He said the spinner shark's anal fin is actually black tipped. The black tip's anal fin is actually white. So I said, that's it? He says, yeah, that's it. Oh, he says, and by the way, their dorsal fin one is a little bit farther forward than the other, but good luck with that one. So I says, all right, we got to catch one and look at its anal fin. So this is actually, this is pretty cool. So this is Chris Paparo's boat. This is our vessel. We were out looking for schools. So Chris, you know, having multiple boats, you know, he was able to fly the drones and find sharks. So we're like, hey, there's sharks here. All right, is that a black tip or a spinner? I don't know. What do you think? Hey, so what do we have to do? We had to catch it. So Chris and I, this is the advantage of having multiple boats, right? So Chris is like, so we knew that because we could see the bunker like showering and jumping out of the water. So we knew something predatory was eating it. Chris flies his drone and we're like, all right, we got the sharks. That's not a white shark. It's not a blue shark. So this is going to be one of those black tip spinners. So we're like, game on. All right. So we're looking, we're trying to see like what's happening. Walt here, this is Walt. He's getting geared up. I'm looking. My buddy's looking, and luckily, you know, it didn't take very long. Walt hooks up, and we get it tail roped, and we actually take a look and find out that indeed this is a spinner shark. So I think we landed, I think six of them this year. All of them were spinner sharks. So you know, catching them, I was like, hey man, like this is pretty sweet. Let's see if we can get one of our CATS cams on. Toby's like, I don't know, you know, they might swim away. Every time you put the CATS cam out, you might not get it back. Like, we don't care about spinner sharks. I was like, yeah, but they're right in the bunker schools. Like, if anything's going to be like, see something, I said, I'll let the stupid thing go right in the middle of the bunker school. At least we'll get it swimming through the bunkers. Like, how cool would that be? Like, I don't know. He's like, you're the chief field coordinator. You lose it, it's on you. So I was like, all right. So I said, we're doing it. This is great, you know. And boy, is he happy we did. So we get the first CATS cam out on a spinner shark. We get it back, and we see it buzzing a dusky shark. We see it buzzing others, and we're like, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, there's another spinner shark, right? So like, holy smokes, this is so cool. All right, so we're like, all right, this is pretty neat. Like, we actually saw something, like they're interacting, and if you watch the 7 hours of video, you know, there's a lot more going on. They're up and down in the water column. There's, you know, they almost break the surface with the CATS cam. So there's a lot more dynamics, or just in terms of like data and interestingness with the spinner shark. So I was like, let's do it again. So we had another opportunity to put another one out. And well, this one worked out really well too. So this one also finds a dusky shark. They actually both found multiple dusky sharks or sandbars. This is a sandbar, sorry. Both of them found multiple sandbars over the course of the 7 hours of video we had. And most of it was this. You just watch SELPs zooming by you. But what's kind of cool about this is you can see, you'll see it starting to pick up. So it's just sort of lazy, sort of lollygagging around. And all of a sudden it kind of like really starts to pick up and increase speed. You can see that something, you know, it seems like, we're watching it for the first time. So it's like, oh, all right, this is kind of interesting. Like, what, does it get chased by something? What's happening? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, here we go. So there's another shark. These spinner sharks definitely love to be with other sharks. And you could see and tell that they were starting to get excited that something's going to happen. So as you can imagine, sitting on the couch, the laptop went flying and it was like, holy, lots of beeps. And don't wake the kid and stuff like that. So we have lots of hours of these animals swimming with small schools, big schools. They'll peel off a school, they'll come back to school. Really spectacular. This shark was named Yogi after Jürgen Friedrich, and him and his family was a very generous donor in helping to make the museum exhibit, the touchscreen museum exhibit possible. So as a thank you, we named the shark after him. So in all good science, right, one question ultimately opens the doors to a lot of other questions, right? So this was just like breaking Toby's chops and putting this out, and it ended up turning into some really amazing conversations between some of our other collaborators. So Dr. Taylor Chappell from Oregon State, Lauren Brewster from the Florida Atlantic University's Harbor Branch. These guys are cats people. They love to analyze cats data. And so now they're starting to think about energetics of spinner sharks. So we know that why do geese fly in V formations, right? The guy in the back gets the rest. Maybe we got the spinner shark in the school, out of the schools, tailing, and we have all of that acceleration and movement data. So, maybe we could start to, so these questions and this just happened last month, 2 months ago, and so already, with the group of people that we've been able to amass and sort of, having access to this type of now information, what we didn't even think about are starting to be thought about. So we're super excited. This year really jump-started, leaped us forward even more. Are the spinner sharks going to show up like they did next year? I don't know, to be determined. This is the first time I spent a lot of time fishing in the same areas that I was fishing this year, and I had never caught, seen, thought about spinners and black tips. Certainly this year they came in mass, and all the sharks that we got on film are all spinner sharks. We did not see a black tip in any way, shape, or form. So, granted, there's a lot of sharks here on Long Island, but we did not confirm any black tips. So moving forward, we're hoping to continue to tag baby white sharks. So for those of you that may not know, there are flags that fishermen fly to let everyone know what they caught that day. And so this is actually a white shark flag that Toby gave me as a gift a few years back. So, continue to expand, and chip away at those other species of sharks, getting more data, more than a handful of them tagged. But we're also positioning ourselves to, work with some of the offshore wind power. We have lots of tagging data and that's been available to the decision makers about, pre-construction. We're hoping to be out there tagging them and collecting data during construction. And then, God willing, I'll be able to still be alive and with it to tag the animals after construction. So we're really positioned well to sort of complete that whole story. As well as looking at climate change. These white sharks have a temperature range that they like. The nursery right now in the New York Bight is there. Well, if this is true and things are getting warmer, what's that going to do to the nursery? Where is the nursery going to go? Typically, it would be either offshore or north. And neither of them are really good options, because if you go offshore, food resources go down, and if you go north, mommy and daddy are going to eat you. But we'll see, so these are sort of questions, this energetics, we're just sort of kicking around, but lots of, the artificial reef stuff. So we have lots of opportunities to sort of continue the work that we've been doing, but also take advantage of opportunities that are presenting themselves. And I think with that, I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. Look at that, 8:02, hot dog. All right. So. Thank you. This is my cell phone number. That is the email address. Feel free to reach out if you have questions. Certainly, if you guys find sharks, give us a shout. Take pictures, though. Must definitely take pictures. You would be amazed at how many thresher sharks we get, and when the picture comes in, they're dogfish. So please make sure you take pictures. I also, not that you can do it on the computer, but I do have SoFo sticker swag. So feel free to take as many of these as you like. They're really good stickers. So if you don't want them to come off, if you need them to come off, don't put it on something that you can't get it off. So with that, I guess Brad will look and see if there's any questions that came in, and certainly any that are here in the audience.
Are there any questions here to start off with?
Good. Yeah.
Is there a reason why it's a 28 days until the 10th month?
So the it's just the options that they get for programming. So it's 28, 54. So we think of 28. The other thing is, as you start to get longer days, the resolution goes down. And so the 28 days, again, our question is habitat usage on Long Island. So we want to get the highest resolution, temperature, and depth while they're still on Long Island. So, if we tag them later in season, so the season for us really is like June through August. So if we tag one in June or July, no big deal. But if we get any tag in August, then it's still going to pop in September. They'll still be here. Sharks. I go back to school in September. The weather gets really bad in September and October, so the chances of us getting out drop off quite a bit. So having that month gives us the resolution, and because the sharks don't really start migrating off Long Island until middle to end of October.
Besides the fact that you get better resolution with the tags, is there any reason why you do lower the tags? Is there going to have a tag that stays on the sharks?
Yeah, so the pop-off tags give us that really fine scale resolution. If we use the spot tags right now, they don't give the resolution in terms of temperature and depth that we get. That's a different tag to answer a different question. So those scientists that are interested in more larger migration patterns, so like OSERC uses them because they're looking to track the animals, their entire migration pattern. They don't necessarily need to know that it was in 30 feet of water at 22 degrees Celsius. That's not really their question. That's our question, but it's not their question. So they're, to put a top-off satellite tag on, that's not a good use for their long-term migration. So it's just there's just different tags to collect data. Yeah.
So do we have an idea of the shark metabolism versus energy? Like how often would a shark need to eat a bunker, to keep going? Because you said you didn't observe them doing any feeding for 7 hours, but do we expect they eat once a day, once every other day?
Yeah, so that's definitely way out of my wheelhouse in terms of what I do. I know that our group, sitting around talking has talked about that sort of stuff, but I think that the actual mechanics of doing it is pretty difficult. These CAT scans, though, may allow us to start tapping into that. I think traditionally you need them in like a tank and, have a captive animal that's in a tank to do the energetics. Again, I'm speaking way outside of my area of expertise, but that's sort of the vibe, the gist that I've been getting.
With the dead sharks you get, are there stomach contents? Are there whole fish in there, or is it all goo? Or
yeah, so a little bit of everything. I know that the stomachs, if they're intact, like that Thresher was perfect. Like that thing, we could have eaten it. I mean, it literally was perfect. So some of the ones that we get off the beach are already beat up, and the insides. I mean, Mother Nature's pretty good, so that's the first thing that sort of gets taken out. Some of those big white sharks that I saw, or that you saw, a couple of them had like multiple striped bass in their bellies, that sort of thing. So the stomachs are taken out, and the content is analyzed, at various levels of analysis, depending on who they go to, and that's the other really valuable thing about getting these sharks is, they don't just go to one person. There's multiple people all around the country that are getting various samples for various questions that they're asking. Heavy metal contaminants, just general biology. What else is it? What else is being? Actual stomach content analysis, like lipid content, and there's tons and tons of stuff that by getting these animals, we can help to just feed, because there's relatively few white sharks that have been able to be dissected at that level. So those are ones that I'll drop everything with white shark.
Well, yeah, it seems weird because you catch them because they're hungry and grabbing bait, right?
Yeah,
So, like,
yeah. So
You would think they, if they're gonna grab bait, they might be interested in feeding on bone, feeding on other stuff. unless
yeah,
they're
so
the
that
trauma of the
that
tag.
post-release recovery is also something that, is of interest. Like how long does it take for them to go back to normal? Like I said, with just explaining our situation with the cats, if we had, a bunch of them on the shelf, and we might want to take the chance of putting one out. If we put one on for a week, I'm sure that in a week's time, it would probably go back to a feeding sort of situation. But, we only have 2, and we're not there yet to let it go for weeks. I think we could get it. It would just be, we have to just put it out for a longer period of time. But these spinners seem to be very resilient as well. So even, when we started, like when we were done, get ready to let them go, we didn't have to walk them babies. I mean, they exploded, poof, took off. So, and very quickly, seems they didn't have like that sort of lethargic kind of slow recovery. I mean, they were out, they was finding other sharks. Like it seemed as though they, just from the visual, that they were recovering pretty quickly. So I'm excited that they come back, because I think we might actually be able to get some feeding behavior.
I noticed in some of your picture photographs of the sharks along the side, some of the sharks had what looked like a PVC inside their mouth. What was that all about?
Yeah, so we want our sharks to be as happy and healthy as possible, right? We want them to recover as quickly as possible so that they can go back to giving us what's their habitat usage. And so we've played around with different ears, different sharks, irrigating them. So even though we keep our sharks in the water, we keep the boat up tide so that, they have water going over them. We've played with, certain species and just the situation, irrigating them. Did we see it make a difference? Not really. Most of the species are very, very resilient, meaning that as soon as we're done with our alien abduction, the hook comes out, they're already starting to just get me out of here. And as soon as we take the tail rope off, boom, they take off. Thresher sharks, because they fight so hard, they're one that we definitely found that, more walking them after we're done and just letting them kind of come back takes 4 or 5 minutes, and then boom, they explode after that. So
building on Joe's question, but from a different perspective, as you have these fish alongside your boat and you're observing them, do you see any evidence of aggressive interactions among them? Do you see bites, wounds, anything like that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I can pretty much tell if it's a male or a female before we flip it over, if it's a larger, what would be considered a more closer and or a mature animal, because they're all bit up. So if it's all bit up, then that's probably going to be a female. Obviously we confirm that, but there's definitely a lot of breeding bites and stuff like that. And if it comes up pretty clean, then typically that would be a male. On the smaller animals though, premature, they all are clean. You really got to take a look at them and make sure whether it's male or female. As far as like fisheries interactions or stuff like that, the most common thing, not that it's common, but the most fisheries thing that we've seen are hooks in their mouths. So fishermen will catch them or break the line, and we'll see hooks in their mouths. I've caught sharks with multiple hooks in their mouth, and so like Joe was saying, obviously we use traditional rod and reels. So that shark, even though it had 2 or 3 hooks in its mouth, still was feeding fine. It did not appear to be emaciated. It looked totally healthy. So yeah. So that the bite marks from other.
So I have a couple questions from the chat that
Yeah.
have come in. Dr. Goldberg asks, has anyone tried collecting shark poop? That's something to perform high throughput sequencing.
Yeah, that's a great
Get a
question.
diet.
And so the answer to that is yes. The veterinary pathologist, Dr. Harley Newton, had a big old syringe and some long rubber tubes and was poop sucking. I don't know where that went. The idea behind that was that's a much easier, less invasive way of finding out what they're eating than doing a more traditional lavage, which is basically pumping water in their stomach until it just pumps out everything that's in there. It's a lot more stressful and dangerous for you So I'm not sure where that went, how many. That's not something that we do as part of our every
Mhm.
shark procedure, but that there were some I know that was done on for the white sharks.
Diana Oliver asks, is there a species you'd like to study more that you haven't got the chance to?
Here on Long Island. So I'm really excited about these spinner sharks. I mean, I think that not only for, being able to confirm that they're spinner sharks, they seem to be a shark of interest, now in terms of fisheries. They're a non-prohibited species, so they are able to be caught and taken for food. And so, and this was literally the first time I had ever saw or touched one. I was talking with Toby, sent me all kinds of pictures to be able to identify the two. So I'm pretty excited about the spinner sharks. I mean, I'm a fisherman. They do put up a very good fight, and but they are resilient. So it's not like I feel bad, like ooh, this is just to give an example of a shark that I love catching, but I don't love catching are hammerheads. So they typically are very, very sensitive to post-release mortalities and stuff like that. So when we get a hammerhead that, unfortunately I've only caught a few, these are one that's like, wow, we finally have, we got another hammerhead, but on the other hand, it's like, let's go quick, because we want to get it away. So I would say spinner shark is one that.
And kind of on a similar theme, we saw a lot of pictures of some different sharks. Had any unusual shark species been found during your study? Things that you would not have expected or weird?
So the weirdest one that weird to me was, this is quite a few years ago. We actually caught a tiny little actual tiger shark. And so that was a really neat sort of, I mean, it was literally only like 3 or 4 feet long. It was a tiny little guy. And that was something I've never seen before, haven't seen since. And that was a really neat animal to have. Like, it's another one of those, like, it's almost like as iconic as a white shark. It's like, I mean, it was only a little teeny guy, which I was happy about. I have no interest in battling giant sharks. That is not anything I'm interested in. So for me personally, that was the coolest. I mean, I'd love to have a whale shark off the back of my boat in a sling, but I don't think I think I gotta get a little farther offshore.
Is that a hand?
Yeah. I was wondering, since your research started originally with the white sharks in the nursery, with the spinner shark population like coming in this year, have you noticed any difference in the populations of the nursery for the white sharks, or any interactions going on?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I personally have not caught a white shark in the last 2 years. I didn't see one last year. I just everywhere I went, they weren't. This year I had a couple opportunities. I had some that were in the slick, confirmed like that's a baby white shark, and it would swim right up to my bait and shoot, go away. So and what I think's happened is we've missed sort of the bubble. It seems as though they come through in that particular body of water that they like. In 2019, I couldn't miss. I mean, I could catch them on shoestrings, duct tape, it didn't matter. I'm exaggerating, of course, but we caught 7 in 7 days. I caught 3 in 1 day and I lost a 4th one. I mean, they were like all over the place. It was amazing. And so we just hit that window perfect that they were there. And we went back to the same spot, the same time of year, and we struck out 2 years in a row. But we keep intel and sort of what's going on. And Montauk this year was quoted as being the year of the white shark. Evidently, they've been catching white sharks out there like crazy. So we were like, sweet, we're going to nail them this year. We go out there, goose egg, zippo, nothing. We had, the 2 boats. We had beautiful weather. We fished our butts off. Like there was we were inshore, offshore, upshore, downshore. We were all over the place. Nothing. And so we really, licking our wounds at the end of the field season here says, you know what, that week that we typically did really, really well, the last 4 years, it's not there anymore. Like and so what we're going to do is look to shift when we go a few weeks earlier based on water temperature. So I think they're still here. I mean, baby white sharks are the hardest, most cagey fish I've ever gone after. They're just little cagey son of a guns. So they're not easy to get. We just have missed the window.
So would you say the spinner sharks coming up this year have anything to do with
So that's a great question. And that was something that we had kicked around, like, because obviously we were trying to get white sharks, and so, but we were also trying to target these spinners, and we thought, all right, they're all kind of here at the same time. But then we were thinking like, well, that doesn't really make sense. I mean, there's tons of bunker along the south shore of Long Island. Why would a baby white shark want to battle with 12 spinner sharks when it could just swim half a mile away and have a whole school bunker by itself? So, I mean, there were a lot of spinner sharks around this year, so could it have just helped to displace them a little bit? I have zero evidence to say yes, but just thinking about, competition and, partitioning resources and stuff like that. Probably. Maybe the white sharks might have been a little farther offshore feeding on squid more so this year because the bunker were getting hammered by the spinner sharks, anybody's guess.
Well, I think we should thank Greg again for coming in and sharing his work with us. Thanks a lot. I thank you online for joining us tonight. I just want to reiterate that Wednesday, November 3rd at 7 o'clock will be our next presentation by Joyce Novak from the Peconic Estuary Program. Thank you for joining our lecture series, and we wish you a good night and hope to see you in November 3rd. Thank you.